Good morning, everyone. My name is Abhishek Gurung, and today I'll be reviewing a book called Development as Freedom by Amartya Sen. Before I start, I'd like to start with a quote. Freedom has 1,000 charms to show that slaves, however contented, never know. About the author. Mr. Sen is a Thomas W. Lamont University professor and a professor of economics and philosophy at Harvard University. He is a Nobel Prize winner for his work on welfare economics. His research has ranged over social choice theory, economic theory, ethics and political philosophy, welfare economics, theory of measurement, decision theory, development economics, public health, and gender studies. His books have been translated to over more than 30 languages. About the book. Mr. Sen published this book based on 5 lectures given while as a presidential fellow at the World Bank in autumn 1996 and a follow-up lecture in late 1997. In this book, it discusses a wide range of issues and concerns central to development theory and practice. The book contains 12 chapters. Here in this review, I have highlighted some key issues regarding the concept and various aspects relating to other dimensions of society and social process. So what is freedom? Mr. Sen describes freedom of individuals with an interest in role of public action and public policy while in combination. It is a general approach that concentrates on the capabilities of people to do things, on the freedom to live lives that they have reasons to value, but sets up a creative interplay between people as individuals and members of the public. Gender, race, culture, disability, justice, rights and values, famine, poverty, oppression and exploitation all play part in this complex but sparkling context. He describes 5 basic human freedoms, which are political freedoms, economic facilities, social opportunities, transparency guarantees, and protective security. Freedom, he says, is a principal determinant of individual initiative and social effectiveness. It is good primarily because it enhances the ability of individuals to help themselves. Poverty as capability deprivation. Here, he argues the need to discuss the valuation of diverse capabilities in terms of public priorities. Public participation in these valuational debates is seen as a crucial part of the exercise of democracy and responsible social choice. Throughout the book, he has highlighted capability approach, which he sees as an opportunity. His capability approach has grown since the 1980s and is a combination of his concerns for positive freedom and for replacing per capita GDP with human development indicators as better measure of evaluation, all leading to developing a concept of development as freedom. The importance of democracy. In this book, he highlights the intensity of economic needs that adds to form the urgency of political freedoms. Political freedom is directly associated with basic capabilities, including that of social and political participation. Democracy has instrumental importance through exerting pressure on the government and policymakers. So, how does democracy relate with economic development? It helps to develop constructive role in conceptualization of needs, including economic needs. While democracy is equally important, it is also important to safeguard the broader social conditions and circumstances that ensure the range and reach of the democratic process. There is the need to make democracy to function better, but not just on institutional forms, but also effective practice. This way, we are trying not to impose our entire burden on the citizens, but take an equal share of responsibility and be accountable for it. The next thing he highlights in this book is regarding famines and other crises, and which he relates with democracy. So the question is, can democracy guarantee equal access to food? Mr. Sen compares economic development and prosperity with equal access for all. Here the illustration is given through famine in comparison with economic growth. His illustration of famines in comparison with democracy relates to countries' democratic processes, whereby he believes countries who are more democratic are less prone to such tragic events. He also stresses that democracy has a direct role in promoting human capabilities that enables people to express and support their claims for political attention. The next topic he highlights in his book is regarding women's agency and social change, where he focuses on the agency role of women, which goes beyond just our well-being. In his book, he discusses the reach and power of women's agency, where he talks about promoting child survival, especially girls, and helping to reduce fertility rates. He argues about the limited reach of women in our society in all fronts, and further stresses the adequate recognition of women's active participation and leadership being a crucial component of development as freedom. While developments have been made regarding freedom to women, they are still struggling in particular from patriarchy. Women are still struggling regarding access to education, freedom of having better choices, like for example, decisions regarding family planning, freedom from public as well as private life. Having said that, his theories have been criticized by a number of authors who have reviewed his book, which I have highlighted two topics here. The first is what is on freedom and does capability approach justify freedom. Sen in his book illustrates about unfreedoms, but it is rather an abstract term and does not provide a clearer picture on the various contents of the freedom itself. His capability approach provides the notion of freedom as rather vague and confusing. Its concepts of entitlement and capability provide a clearer distinction, but they are also equally confusing due to the labels themselves, as argued by Des Gaspar. They further stress that everything has two aspects. In the context, they suggest that while there are good reasons to value some freedoms, there are also good reasons to disvalue some other freedoms. They believe it comes at an expense of the other. The next thing that has been criticized by many authors is his umbrella concept of freedom, which is insufficient for the tasks of describing, explaining, motivating, and developing policy recommendations, and especially for women who are tied to different values. He has given overemphasis on freedom while making comparisons of capabilities among men and women, but has failed to address other issues like emotions and behavioral aspects. His concept of freedom is also under-elaborated and deliberately under-specified. It is ambiguous as a philosophy and needs more defining. Besides, Sen's lack of historical or global consideration is most apparent in his analysis of famine, which he provides as the major reason why freedom must accompany development. So the recommendations. Having said that, the authors recommend for an alternative language that lays more explicit stress on the values that are equally important as freedom, but also serve as means and ends for development. It will require recognition of different capabilities which have value in their own right. Having said that, his books provide a pathway in analyzing freedom and its various aspects which are deep-rooted within us and in our society. The book provides a valuable insight into the perspectives and demand for change. Development is necessary, but more important is to be able to do so. Mr. Sen, through his book, is able to give us that impression, and now we have a responsibility as humans to develop ourselves carrying through the notion. Here are my references. Thank you.